You've heard the headlines, right? Housing crisis, sky-high interest rates, millennials doomed to rent forever, while hedge funds buy up every suburban cul-de-sac. In Austin, you can't even get a broom closet for under $500,000. In Los Angeles, the average starter home costs more than the GDP of a small island nation. And don't even talk to me about New York City, where you need 3 jobs, a trust fund, and maybe an organ to sell if you want a 1-bedroom that doesn't double as a closet. But here's the twist. While Zillow warriors cry into their oat milk lattes, a different America is hiding in plain sight. An America where the median home price isn't $450,000, it's $80,000, where mortgage payments are less than your monthly car insurance, where you can literally buy a 3-bedroom house with a yard, a porch, and maybe even a garage for less than the price of 1 year's tuition at a mid-tier college. These aren't rumors, they're real towns, real homes, real numbers. And the craziest part, nobody talks about them. They don't show up in glossy real estate magazines or HGTV renovation fantasies. Why? Because they don't fit the narrative. They're too cheap, too overlooked, too brutally honest about what American life really looks like outside the coastal bubbles. But if you're willing to live without craft cocktail bars on every corner, if you're okay with replacing traffic jams with cornfields or lakefront sunsets, then congratulations, you've just hacked the housing market. Here's what you need to know. According to the National Association of Realtors, the national median home price as of early 2025 is 3. Interest rates hover around 6.8%. The dream feels dead, yet scattered across the Midwest, the Rust Belt, the Deep South, and overlooked corners of the Northeast, there are still towns where $100,000 is not only enough to buy a home, it's enough to buy freedom. No 30-year mortgage. No bidding wars with tech bros. Just a set of keys, a lawn to mow, and the terrifying realization that you finally own something outright. So buckle up, because we're counting down 15 U.S. towns where you can still buy a home for under $100. Some are so cheap they'll make you suspicious. But all of them prove the same point. The American dream isn't dead, it just moved to zip codes you've never heard of. Cairo, Illinois sits at the literal bottom of the state where the Mississippi and Ohio rivers collide like 2 stubborn cousins who refuse to share. On paper it's historic, beautiful, and cheap, unbelievably cheap. Median home price? Just $48,000. Yes, you read that right. Zillow will make you think there's a typo. But Cairo is complicated. Once a bustling river port, it's now a half-abandoned time capsule with grand crumbling mansions that look like they're begging for someone with a toolbox and a Netflix documentary crew. You can buy a house here for less than the cost of a 2025 Toyota Corolla, but you'll also inherit the ghosts of a city that lost its economic engine decades ago. Cost of living is 35% below the national average. Violent crime? High, though not apocalyptic. Property crime? Shrug, it depends on which block you're on. Unemployment is rough, but remote rookers can flip the script. Locals say the town is slowly being rediscovered by artists and retirees who want river views on a Dollar Tree budget. Picture this. Front porch views of tugboats sliding down the Mississippi, land that costs less than your last vacation, and the eerie quiet of a town frozen in time. Cairo isn't for everyone, but if you're bold, under $100 K here buys you an empire. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Welcome to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, a town where the math of real estate makes your jaw drop. Median home price in 2025, around $73,000. That's less than what people pay for a studio in Austin per year. Pine Bluff has 40,000 residents, a struggling economy, and more vacant properties than Starbucks locations in Manhattan. But here's the kicker. Infrastructure is solid. High-speed internet, multiple colleges nearby, and a regional medical center that anchors the local job market. Cost of living is 31% below the U.S. average. Violent crime sits uncomfortably high, but not don't leave your house high, more like know which neighborhood to pick levels. Investors have been quietly scooping up homes here for under $50,000 and renting them out to students and hospital staff. Reddit threads are full of people saying Pine Bluff is ugly until you realize you can own 3 houses for the price of 1 Tesla Cybertruck. Imagine walking into a Victorian with hardwood floors, paying cash, and still having money left to redo the roof. Pine Bluff has grit, history, and ridiculously cheap homes. But it's not a fairy tale, it's a fixer-upper town for people who see potential in rough edges. 13. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Johnstown, Pennsylvania is famous for 2 things: floods and football. It's been wiped out by water more times than Noah's Ark, but somehow it keeps rebuilding, and right now it's dirt cheap. Median home price, $72,000. That's mortgage pocket change compared to Philly or Pittsburgh. The population has fallen steadily, now hovering around 18,000, leaving behind beautiful but empty homes built for steel workers back when Carnegie ruled the region. Cost of living is 25% below the national average. Crime is slightly above average, but not catastrophic. Here's the deal. Johnstown is pivoting. Remote workers, retirees, and creative transplants are quietly buying homes and turning them into coffee shops, art studios, and air. Broadband is solid, healthcare is stable thanks to the regional hospital, and the mountains give you a postcard backdrop that Denver people pay $800K for. A Redditor summed it up perfectly: bought a $60,000 house, fixed it up, and now my backyard looks like a Bob Ross painting. Weather is brutal, jobs are scarce unless you're remote, and property taxes bite harder than you expect. But if you've got hustle, Johnstown lets you live in a house that looks like old money for less than new money on an iPhone. Danville, Illinois. Danville, Illinois is the kind of town where the American dream is still technically possible if you've got $100K and a stomach for uncertainty. Median home price, $86,000. Cost of living 29% below national average. Population about 20. Danville was once a manufacturing hub, but now it's best known for two things. Abraham Lincoln argued cases here, and you can still buy houses cheaper than a year's tuition at most universities. Crime is high, let's not sugarcoat it, but so are incentives. Illinois has targeted Danville for redevelopment funds, broadband expansion, and small business grants. Translation: early movers with cash can carve out bargains. A user on Bigger Pockets said, "I bought 2 houses in Danville for $100. It's that kind of place, risky, but the numbers work. Plus, you're 2 hours from Chicago, 1 hour from Champaign-Urbana, which means you can escape the small-town vibe whenever you want. Imagine owning a 3-bedroom home with a yard for the price of a Prius. Sure, you'll need to invest sweat equity, but you'll own property outright in a state where people pay $500,000 for a condo with a view of a brick wall. Median home price, $98,000, right on the line. Population, 60,000, down from 170,000 during the steel boom. The city collapsed when the mills shut down, leaving behind thousands of gorgeous but neglected homes. Now it's stabilizing. Youngstown State University, tech incubators, and healthcare have injected new life. Cost of living, 33% below U.S. average. Violent crime is still above average, but falling. Jobs are coming back slowly, especially remote work and small-scale manufacturing. The housing market here is what some call stupid cheap. Reddit users brag about picking up homes for $40,000 and renting them for $800 a month. But here's the secret. Youngstown is surrounded by natural beauty, lakes, trails, and rolling hills that rival parts of upstate New York. Imagine buying a home with a porch, yard, and basement for under $100K, while friends in LA pay $3,200 for a studio the size of a closet. The risk is real: crime, aging infrastructure, slow economy, but the reward is generation. Youngstown is the classic underdog, bruised, scrappy, but still standing. And if you're smart, you'll grab a piece before someone finally decides to polish this Rust Belt gem. 10. Fort Smith, Arkansas. Fort Smith, Arkansas, is the sleeper hit of this list. Population, median home price, $99,000, barely squeaking under the wire. Unlike other cheap towns, Fort Smith isn't collapsing, it's quietly thriving. Located on the Arkansas-Oklahoma border, it's got history, culture, and surprisingly solid jobs in manufacturing, logistics, and healthcare. Crime average, not terrifying. Cost of living, 21% below U.S. average. Homes here don't just come cheap, they come with character. Craftsman-style bungalows, brick colonials, and mid-century ranches that look like HGTV forgot about them. Broadband is strong, schools are improving, and the downtown district has a legit food scene with barbecue and breweries. A Redditor wrote, "I bought a 3-bed in Fort Smith for $90K, my mortgage is $6. My friends in Dallas laughed until they saw my backyard pool. Summers are brutal, heat, humidity, and mosquitoes that belong in Jurassic Park. Also, job market is stable but not booming. But think about it, under $100K gets you an actual home in a mid-sized city with amenities, not a collapsing ghost town." Fort Smith might be the best kept secret in America's housing market. 9. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton isn't just the office meme capital, it's one of the cheapest mid-sized cities in America where you can still snag a home under 100. Population 76,000. Cost of living 22% below national average. And here's the kicker, Scranton is one of those places that shouldn't be this cheap, but decades of industrial decline and population loss kept prices in check. That's changing fast though. Scranton is pulling in remote workers, students, and retirees at record levels because it's close to NYC and Philly without the Manhattan mortgage. Crime is moderate, better than Philly, worse than rural Vermont. Healthcare, education, logistics, and a surprising rise in tech startups supported by Lackawanna College and the University of Scranton. The housing stock is classic Northeast brick duplexes, row houses, and single-family homes with yards that need TLC but scream potential. A Redditor put it bluntly, paid 85K for a house. My Philly friends laughed until I told them my mortgage is less than their parking permit. Scranton is a workhorse city, gritty but accessible. Downsides, snow dumps, property taxes, and the occasional whiff of coal dust history. Upside, buy now, because Scranton won't stay under $100K forever. 8. Rockford, Illinois. Rockford, Illinois is the underdog of the Midwest. Population, 1. Median home price, $97,000. Cost of living, 24% below U.S. Rockford was once an industrial giant, then collapsed, and now sits in the awkward middle, too big to ignore, too cheap to believe. The homes here are stunning, early 20th century Victorians, brick colonials, and craftsman houses that would cost a fortune in Chicago. Crime is high, let's not sugarcoat it, but block by block, Rockford is a tale of two cities. In the right neighborhoods, you can buy a 4-bedroom for under $100K, remodel it, and sit on instant equity. In the wrong ones, you'll be on first-name terms with the police scanner. Improving healthcare, aerospace manufacturing, and Chicago commuters who decided the city wasn't worth the rent. Reddit threads about Rockford all say the same. It's sketchy, but the housing is absurdly cheap. Imagine paying $650 a month for a mortgage on a house with a basement, garage, and backyard, while someone in San Francisco drops that on a parking spot. Rockford isn't glamorous, but it's real America. Cheap, functional, and full of opportunity if you're willing to navigate its rough edges. 7. Decatur, Alabama is a southern sleeper city where homes under $100K are still surprisingly easy to find. Population, 57,000. Median home price, $93,000. Cost of living, 20% below U.S. average. Here's why Decatur is different. It's not dying. It's stable, with a growing economy thanks to aerospace, manufacturing, and river commerce. Located along the Tennessee River, it's got outdoor perks, boating, fishing, hiking, that people in Nashville or Huntsville pay triple to enjoy. Crime, slightly above average, but not terrible. School, middling, but improving. The housing stock ranges from cute ranches to fixer-upper craftsman homes that scream HGTV project. Redditors love Decatur for the pace of life. I paid $88K for a house, and my backyard looks like a state park. Downside, humidity that feels like soup, bugs the size of drones, and the occasional tornado siren that doubles as a neighborhood soundtrack. But the upside is undeniable: real jobs, real houses, and the kind of community where people still wave at you while driving by. If you're priced out of Nashville or tired of Huntsville's housing crunch, Decatur is the budget-friendly backdoor into the Southern dream. 6. Topeka, Kansas. Topeka, Kansas doesn't get headlines, but it should. Population, median home price, $99,000, right on the edge but still qualifying. Cost of living, 21% below U.S. average. This is a state capital, not a ghost town, meaning jobs are here, government, healthcare, education, and even some tech creeping in. Topeka has been quietly marketing itself as a remote worker destination, offering relocation grants, small business incentives, and more. Crime is above average, yes, but not Detroit levels. And the house, you can still score a 3-bedroom ranch with a yard for under $100K, often with hardwood floors and basements built to withstand Kansas storms. A Redditor summed it up: I moved to Topeka for the cheap house, stayed because everything else in life is cheap too. Downside, it's Kansas, flat, windy, and sometimes boring. Entertainment is church potlucks, high school football, and the occasional state fair. But think about it, where else can you own a mortgage-free house in a capital city for less than the cost of a new Tesla? Topeka is stability, space, and affordability bundled into a package most Americans don't even realize still exists. Eber, 5, Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie, Pennsylvania, is the Rust Belt city hiding in plain sight with some of the cheapest waterfront housing in America. Population, 90. Median home price, $92,000. Cost of living, 25% below U.S. average. Erie sits on Lake Erie's southern shore, which means beachfront sunsets, fishing, and summers that look like postcards. The economy has struggled, manufacturing collapsed, population declined, but Erie is fighting back with medical centers, small businesses, and a growing tourism push. Crime is average, schools are middling, but the housing stock is absurdly undervalued. You can buy a 3-bedroom with lake views for less than $100K. A Redditor bragged, "I bought a $70,000 house a block from the lake. My friends in Boston didn't believe me until I showed them the mortgage statement." Downside: brutal winters that bury cars in snowdrifts, property taxes that bite harder than expected, and a sluggish job market unless you're remote. Upside: waterfront living at Walmart prices. Erie is one of those cities where the math doesn't make sense. You can have the lake lifestyle people dream about, but without the 6-figure mortgage. It's cheap, it's gritty, it's real, and it's still under Peoria, Illinois. Peoria, Illinois, is the textbook definition of Midwest affordability: big enough to matter, cheap enough to shock you. Population, 110,000. Median home price, $97,000. Cost of living, 22% below U.S. Once a manufacturing giant for Caterpillar, Peoria's economy tanked when the plants left. But now, it's stabilizing, with healthcare, education, and logistics picking up the slack. The housing here is no joke. You can buy brick colonials, bungalows, and post-war ranches for under $100K, that in Chicago would cost $400. Crime, yeah, it's high in certain neighborhoods. Property taxes, painful, but here's the upside: Peoria is a city, not a tiny dot. You get hospitals, universities, cultural events, and yes, even a minor league baseball team. A Redditor summed it up: paid $89K for a 3-bed house with a garage. My cousin in Chicago is paying $2,300 a month for a studio with rat. Downsides: winters are harsh, the economy is slow, and some neighborhoods are rough. Upside: you can actually live like a human being with a yard, driveway, and space for a dog. If you're priced out of Chicago but still want Illinois roots, Peoria is the best $100K buy you'll find. Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York is the shocker on this list because it's not dead, it's growing. Population, 27. Median home price, $98,000. Cost of living, $100. This is a city with a professional NFL team, a revitalized downtown, a booming craft beer scene, and a cultural history that rivals mid-tier cities across the country. So how on earth are homes still under $100? Buffalo's been losing people for decades, leaving behind a glut of housing stock. That means old Victorians, duplexes, and single families are still selling cheap, especially in neighborhoods just outside the polished core. Crime is above average, winters are legendary, 6 feet of snow in a weekend is normal, and taxes are steep. But jobs are here: healthcare, education, tourism, and even tech creeping in. A Redditor said it best: "I bought a $95K house, the bills lose, the snow never stops, but I've got equity and wings." Imagine living near Niagara Falls, paying under $100K for a house, while someone in New Jersey drops $3,000 a month on rent. Buffalo is gritty, cold, and brutally real, but it's also affordable, alive, and climbing. Flint, Michigan. Yes, Flint. The city with one of the worst reputations in America is still technically a place where you can buy a home under $100K, median home price, $52,000. Population 79,000. Cost of living, 35% below U.S. average. Here's the truth: Flint is rebuilding, slowly. The water crisis destroyed its image, but federal money, redevelopment projects, and grassroots activism are pumping life back in. Crime remains high, schools are rough, and blight is everywhere, but the math, insane. You can buy entire duplexes for under $60K, rehab them and cash flow like crazy if you're willing to hustle. Redditors in real estate groups, constantly talk about Flint as the ultimate high-risk, high-reward play. A guy bragged, bought 2 houses for $100K total, both rented, cash flow positive within a year. Downsides are obvious: water stigma, poverty, crime. Upside: entry-level home ownership for the price of a luxury vacation. If you're tough, resourceful, and see opportunity where others see disaster, Flint is still one of the last great housing bargains in America. It's not for the faint of heart, but under $100K, it's practically a monopoly cheat code. Detroit, Michigan. The king of cheap housing in America is still Detroit. Population 6 and 20,000. Median home price, $93,000. Cost of living, 27% below U.S. average. Detroit is the ultimate real estate paradox. The Motor City collapsed after the auto industry left, leaving behind tens of thousands of abandoned homes. But now, it's a city in transition. Downtown is buzzing with restaurants, tech startups, and billion-dollar investments, while neighborhoods just a mile away sell houses for under. That's insane. Crime is high, blight is everywhere, and infrastructure is still broken in places, but the opportunities are real. You can buy a brick home, put 30 TI into repairs, and end up with something worth triple in just a few years. A Redditor nailed it. Detroit is where you gamble on America's future. I paid $82K for a house. Friends thought I was insane. Zillow now says it's $150K. Downsides: winters, taxes, and a city government that moves slower than molasses. Upsides: potential equity, cultural energy, and being part of one of the greatest urban comeback stories in America. Detroit is still cheap, still rough, but it's also alive, and for under $100K, it's the best shot at owning a piece of a city that refuses to die.